Welcome to Iteration Office Hours, where we discuss cases brought by people where the question is, hey, what are alternatives for iteration? There's nothing on the agenda. So we need some participation. What is a case to look at?
I mean, Sid, have you noticed anything recently just in the company or on calls where you think we could iterate better or break it down more?
I think I was in the project horse call earlier, and I think they did a great job of saying, hey, we're going to cut scope there. And specifically, they were removing switchboard. And they thought about what the impact was, how to later add it, and they were able to cut scope and keep on a deadline. So kudos to them.
Josh, are you part of that project? Do you have anything to add there?
No, I think Sid covered it well, and this is a public live stream. So, I think, yeah, we took a look at this project as a large project, and as Sid noted, we're trying to achieve initial adoption, but not to the. But we also want to make sure we still lay a solid foundation for our future, and so we're the team's working through and balancing some of those things without getting to be more specific.
Great, thank you. And Byron has number 2.
Yeah, hey Sid. I'm just curious in terms of I know as being a public company now, there's some new compliance and regulatory type requirements that we have to stand by, and I know on the security compliance team we're helping roll out some of those items and help support. And just in terms of those sort of maybe less fun and exciting items for team members at times, do you have any input on how you can roll those things out without creating change fatigue, where it's, setting a new bar consistently that's just a little bit higher and it creates this feeling of never quite reaching that bar?
Yeah, thanks for that. What is a change we're rolling out?
I think some of the changes and increased scrutiny, let's say around managing changes outside of GitLab for some of our other enterprise apps.
Can you be concrete? Like what is the change we're asking people to make?
I think tracking of changes, let's say within Zora for our billing system. I don't know how much we can say on the live stream or not.
I think it's fine to discuss a billing system publicly.
I think just around the workflow for making changes where potentially teams that have in the past managed those changes and the personnel that have been involved, maybe some of that is being taken and transitioned to our business technology team. Okay, so people used to be able to change the configuration in Zora directly, and now they have to go through a single team. Yep. Who's responsible for that, but also for the accuracy of our billing. Right. Yeah. Cool. That's tough. Hey, I now have to wait for someone else. I think it's just probably a lot of this is already done, but it's first of all, why do we need this? Because our configuration changes might impact our billing, and billing impacts our revenue, and the revenue is something we need to have accurate. And the second thing is, okay, how are you supporting me in that? What is the SLA? How fast can I expect the changes? What's the median time? Who do I escalate to if I have something that's urgent? Will these people be able to go on a video call with me to do it really quickly? How do I suggest changes? And then what's kind of unforeseen improvements? Hey, if you have a problem with
if you have a question about Zora, we will now communicate with Zora and get the answer for you. So we're going to save you time in this regard. And things are going to get better. Well, this team is also going to make Zora a single source of truth for orders and things like that. So why do I need to make the change? How kind of minimize the impact of the change and point at the things that might improve and become easier.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks for asking. Drew.
Yeah, hi. So we're about a year into the engineering allocations that I think started off as rapid actions. And I'm wondering if you have any opinions on what has gone well, what you think hasn't gone as well, and how these sort of like urgent response operations might look in the future, if not, you know, the same as they are already. And from your level, like what those have looked like to you and what they might look like next time we have to do something like that.
Yeah, so to give everyone context, engineering allocations is engineering saying, hey, we need this much of our time to work on reliability, for example. The old method was that product would schedule reliability improvements together with feature improvements and things like that. But it turned out that it didn't happen to the extent it should. Also because only engineering is more aware of those things than product is. So it kind of created, there was a lack of probably information and then a lack of that scheduling. And we had to revert course. And after a while of not doing enough, we had to kind of close the gap on kind of the debt we built up. And we had to spend a lot of time on it. I think what went well is that we did it before we had any kind of major problems because of it. Like there were signals that the problems we were building, but we didn't have any super extended downtime or something like that, something disastrous. We've been able to scale it up and ramp it back down. I think what could be better if we would have switched to this model earlier, we could have made it more gradually. And now, because there was a lot of a backlog of work that needed to be done, we had to switch people between teams, which is not very motivating and not very efficient. I was one of the people who kind of pushed to keep the responsibility in products. Was part of the problem that it happened pretty late. But I think, yeah, I think overall we should be proud that we did it before something worse happened.
So is that something that we roughly keep the structure of and just try to do it, I guess, more often so we can do it on a smaller scale?
Yeah, that like it went from kind of, it didn't exist, so it was 0%, and then it went all the way up, and now it's coming down, and hopefully we're going to find a stable state. Okay,
so the idea, like the structure of how they work is something that we're probably going to hold on to, but try and just, you know, improve our scheduling and our sizing of the allocations.
Yep.
Cool. Thanks.
Josh, I can type if you want to verbalize.
Yeah, I'll just note, Sid, one item that an enablement that we've been working on or something you're working on, but also trying to think through, is the separation of configuration and secrets in our Omnibus config. Right now, we accept passwords in there and things like that for a variety of services like that we manage, Postgres, Redis. So there's external third-party services and also ones for our own service that we utilize, for example, for GitLab application code itself. And so there's a kind of a long-standing request to try and split this, but it does pose an interesting challenge. And I was wondering if you had any thoughts on how you might approach it or think about it, to give you some initial sort of items that we've been working on, and I'll link the issue here. I'll link it under A. We've worked on encrypting some of the non-Rails, the Rails passwords. It's in the issue. And then we're trying to think through, how we handle some of the other ones that get cross-pollinated or push multiple places. Like, say the Postgres password has to get both to Postgres as well as also to Rails. And so, we've touched some customers and talked about bundling something like Vault, but they also would like to, kind of use their own secret management solution as well, rather than having to, onboard a different one. So I was curious on your thoughts here. Apologies for not teeing this up earlier.
Yeah. I can't help. I opened this issue. Is this a public one or a private one? Seems public.
Yeah, it should be public. I think it's, yeah.
Cool. So I'm okay screen sharing.
Yeah, there's might be a couple confidential issues underneath it. I don't see any right now, actually. So.
Okay. So first, a bit off track, but here's a warning that I've reached 65% of my storage capacity. And I must say I'm puzzled by this. If my car would complain if if the gas tank was 65% empty, I'd say that's a bit too early. Like, tell me when maybe you have a quarter left or 10% left or something like that. But 65% seems fine. So Shadows, maybe we can you can screenshot this and put in the CEO channel, because we shouldn't be signaling people at this early of a stage. I don't think that makes sense. Let me look into this. Yeah, this is the thing I was going to say. I think the thing I heard most about is that customers are super sensitive about their LDAP password, because it's an important system to secure. So I would say that the iterative way is to just do the LDAP credential. And I see that that's already in the MVP, encrypt the password for the customer's LDAP server. So that's awesome. So I have no suggestions on top of that. That seems a pretty small scope to start with, but feel free to give additional context, Josh.
Yeah, I think it's my hunch is we'll probably end up having to either integrate or like provide some abstraction layer that's easy to tie into Vault or something like that, and then likely bundle something like Vault. Because of the challenge with, the next up concerns typically are around the other services we bundle, Postgres and Redis. And so we need a way to actually, we're somewhat restricted in the fact that we're limited by what they support as far as handling encrypted passwords as well. And so I think we'll likely have to move towards something like that. After we get through moving some of our own stuff into like using the Rails encrypted secrets and things like that. But it has been a long running challenge to try and.
Sure. Yeah, and I think it's important to realize that customers have different ways in which they deal with secrets. I've heard of customers saying, well, my LDAP password should never touch a disk, so I'm going to always have it in an environmental variable. So there's just going to be that environmental variable. There's going to be people who want it in Vault. There's people who want it in a file. And I think that running kind of self-hosted software means that we have to support different cases. But I'm getting maybe a bit distracted from iteration here.
I think that's precisely what we're running into. We try to be wary of spending a lot of effort and only catching 20-30% of the use case. And so we're trying to think through an effort that could be more generally applicable, but still support easy integration with these other options you want to try to provide. So, maybe the abstraction layer is environment variables, for example. And so provided people are okay with it being there, at least temporarily, that could be an option to make it easier to hook into Vault and things like that too. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, excuse me, that would expand the effort, but I don't see a way to kind of iterate yourself out of it. I think although you can ship something that's only this one case, I do think you have to think upfront of how you're gonna support the other use cases.
Thanks, Sid. Appreciate it.
Thanks for asking. Anybody else?